Okay. Hello. Hi there. So today I want to go over what I learned watching this movie documentary called The Red Pill. It is by someone named Cassie Jaye. And basically, the premise is she was a modern feminist that reached out to a lot of men's rights activists to speak with them about their movement and opinions on feminism from both sides. It got a lot of backlash because throughout the film, she ended up changing her views. By the end of the film, she was no longer a feminist. And I just watched it. I just watched the whole thing with my brother. And I definitely think that it's something everyone should watch. But I want to highlight some of the most impactful scenes and kind of talk about what I gathered from the experience of watching it. Now, actually, a lot of these things I have already thought about in my in my own descent down the rabbit hole of learning about how the world works. It's nice to see a woman talk about this kind of thing. Men's rights are an issue that a lot of people don't talk about. They just kind of sweep it under the rug, and men's rights are just as important. That is what equality is. And she started it from the opinion of someone who, like, she was an actress who was always like typecasted as like the blonde girl, right? Who always died in movies and stuff like that. So she had a pretty misogynistic view of things because of her negative experiences with men, specifically in the film industry, right? And that is what motivated her to start making her own films that are about children, women's rights, LGBT, stuff like that. And then that's when she started this documentary on men's rights. And yeah, my brother is here. Hello, brother.
Hey, what's up?
So why do you think that this is so important for both men and women to watch?
Mostly because so much of the modern narrative is slanted toward only telling one side of the story.
Yeah.
I think that if you consider yourself a critical thinker, and if you consider yourself someone who tries to have educated opinions on things before you are educated, yeah, you want to have educated opinions. You have to hear, excuse me, you have to hear different sources of evidence and perspectives. It really is. It comes down to perspective and how you interpret things and how you interpret the facts to form your opinions. But I think that you need to have facts from as many angles as you can before you formulate your opinions on things. And I think that the Red Pill does a very good job of showing a side that's just largely ignored. It's constantly ignored.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I think that men's issues are often overlooked because men are supposed to be the ones that are the fighters, the providers, the ones that are always strong. And it seems like in today's society we're almost using that against men these days, trying to like devalue masculinity and say that, being a strong masculine man is a negative. And something that this documentary pointed out to me is oh, I lost my train of thought. Is that society is mostly run and built by men because they have to be the ones who do the dangerous jobs that require strength and, most importantly, the idea of sacrifice. Men are basically groomed from childhood to believe that at the end of the day, they should sacrifice themselves if the situation presents itself. So how can we say that's fair? You know, the whole women and children first thing is very real. I mean, you know, my only counter argument to the whole men and women, or women and children first thing is, I do think that, especially, you know, something that maybe the Titanic didn't specify is like, it's women and children first, but that's only after the billionaires are already on shore. You know what I mean? I do think that money is more important and always has been more of a priority than gender. Now, one could argue that, you know, most of the powerful, rich people are men. Yeah. And what I also learned from this is that a lot of these guys, they're not trying to say like women should be in the kitchen, women should be, you know, these stereotypes that a lot of feminists think that they are trying to say here. It's really more of a like, it's not about the women. Go figure. It's about their own struggles being seen and heard and respected more than anything.
Yeah, I think that a lot of these.
What?
Can you hear me? Hold on. Is this better? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that a lot of men that, you know, kind of show themselves as a byproduct of this like women's movement. I think that many of that, I mean, I'm being speculative here, but I think that many men who are against feminism or against the women's rights activist movement and all these things that have happened, and they kind of go MGTOW, or they go down this red pill Cassie Jaye path. I think a lot of them become vindictive and angry about it simply because they feel like they aren't being listened to. And I think that a lot of men would be much more inclined to to acquiesce and to go along with some of the women's narratives, or at least listen to them and be receptive of them, if so many of them did not feel like their views were constantly being invalidated, and the struggles that men go through as a byproduct of the same system that women complain about, like if they were being heard as well. I mean, and I think that this documentary really shows that, yeah, women may have problems in society, but when you look at when you juxtapose the amount of problems that women have compared to the amount of problems that men have, there are just as many issues that men have, and they are just vastly overlooked. And I think that if this documentary convinces women, just a few women, to go, wait, maybe I should listen a little more closely to what men are saying, I think it's done more than its job, because that's what we ultimately need. We need more discourse, and we need people listening to each other more.
Yes. And, you know, yelling at people through megaphones and protests and stuff at these rallies where men are just trying to talk about their own struggles isn't productive. Just because men want to stand up for themselves and be listened to and talk about their personal issues too does not mean that they are invalidating women per se. Now, the Andrew Tate types, the people that are just hurting the men's movement by being these misogynistic, evil people, they deserve to be shut down. They don't deserve to have a platform. But things like this, where they're just trying to, bring awareness to, the higher suicide rates of men, or the fact that more men are killed in the workplace, things like that. That is not a threat of women's rights being demolished. That just is a step towards real equality.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest issues these men's rights people have, they point out in this movie, is that so many of these women's rights things that are happening, some of the balances that have come out of it for them have actually hurt men more, and men have still had the same societal expectation and the same demands as they were before the women's right movement even happened. And like, but you know, you hear like from that redheaded chick all this, oh, we're just trying to we're working for men too, we're trying to make things better for men as well.
Yeah, we can skip to that real quick. Hold on, where is she? She's at the end, I think.
Yeah, she's close to the end. But like the whole thing is, if that's really the case, then why are men still held to the same work standards? Why don't, you know, like all this women's rights stuff? Yeah, with all this women's rights stuff, why don't we have more women in construction work? Why hasn't that changed? If we're really talking about equality and women's rights, why are men still responsible for all of the same things that have been destructive to them, and nothing's changed about that? They say, oh, well, we're on your side too. We're here to work with you too. We're here to work with you too. We're here to make things better for you. Where is it? When are we going to see it? When are we going to see you guys actually saying, hey, let's come up with some kind of thing where men don't have to do all these deadly jobs? You know, I don't see them advocating for, like, I don't know, AI to do the work. I don't see them saying, hey, let's reroute some of this funding that's going into all this stuff into having machines do work for men so they don't have to belabor more. All I see is more for women, more for women, more for women. And I think that that's a big point.
Yep. I want to specifically point out how feminist groups are so just like, oh, this guy's face. are so destructive and aggressive. And for example, I'll play it with sound here for a minute.
Not with the intention of shining light on men's issues, but rather with the goal of silencing any discussion of men's issues. Like at Ottawa University, when Professor Janice Fiamengo attempted to give a lecture that questioned the feminist narrative.
Yeah, they're just like, they're beating on pots and pans. They're like blowhorns.
Yeah, why are you so frightened of hearing an opinion different from your own?
What does that sound like?
It was the first international conference on men's issues in Michigan, where even Ms. Magazine urged its readers to protest the conference in hopes of shutting it down. But perhaps the most well-known protest of a pro-men's rights event.
This is ridiculous.
2013 at the University
You're not going to change someone's mind by doing this.
For Equality hosted a discussion titled From Misogyny and Misandry to Intersexual Dialogue.
Well, in my 20s, when I went to Columbia to study art history, and that was in 68, and that was the height of the academy. And so suddenly...
Yeah, you can hear them chanting outside. And just louder than they are when he's talking about the very real men's issue of being drafted in the war.
Yep. Yeah, you know, it all loops back around to the argument, like, even to that, like, you want to invalidate men's military expenses and the fact they've been to wars, and you want to pull fire alarms so that people have to evacuate a building so that you can't listen to the veteran talk about experiences as a man. Well, why don't you go sign up for selective service? Oh, wait, because the system's in place to where you can't because you're a woman. Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they even end up illegally pulling the fire alarm to stop this discussion. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me, honestly. That, you know, these people think that this is appropriate behavior. But I think that a lot of people in the feminist movement are just so brainwashed, but they don't need to be rude like this. Like this woman is just a horrible person.
Back up for a second. Feminists do not want you to lose custody of your children. The assumption that women are naturally better caregivers is part of patriarchy. feminists do not like commercials in which
That's so
bumbling dads mess up the
stupid.
laundry and competent wives
Yeah,
hustle in and fix
it's
it. The assumption that
Biology.
this
It's not
is a
patriarchy,
list
it's
of
biology.
the things that we're working towards.
yeah.
I think that what bothers me the most about so many of these patriarchy arguments is that so many of them are women bitching about nature, and they're blaming men for it. Like, don't you call it Mother Nature? Should you blame women? You know, I mean, I joke, you know, but like so many of these things are just the natural order of the human race.
Yeah.
Women are better caregivers because they have breasts that give milk.
Yep.
You know, so they can feed the child. So of course they're going to be biologically predisposed to being better caretakers, because that's their role once the child is born, is to nurture the child until it's old enough to do it on its own, and the men protect and provide for the women so that they can continue to nurture. That's nature. That's nature. Like, so like y'all want to get mad about the way that the natural order things are, and you blame it on the patriarchy when it's literally just a byproduct of the natural way that humans operate.
Yep. And within doing this, Cassie Jaye had a lot of cognitive dissonance. Like she was very much like, her worldview was kind of flipped upside down when she was forced to look at these problems from an objective perspective. And she even talks about how hard it is for her to be objective about this, because she is what she identified as what these guys avidly stand against. And these guys represent, you know, what her feminist ideals are against. But she found through making this that there is a center that can be found from this.
Yeah, you know, and I don't even think this is a partisan issue. I really don't. I don't think that this is a leftist right-wing thing. I think this is nonpartisan, because we're literally talking at this point about the natural order of men and women, and how society has shifted into paradigms that disproportionately ignore problems that men have as a result of the system. And another thing that's been interesting to me is you get the argument a lot of the times, like, the patriarchy is the problem. Well, if men were worried about the way that men treat other men, don't you think that all these men that are talking about men's issues wouldn't be blaming men? Like, that we're not blaming men, because it's not necessarily a patriarchal system causing these problems to men. It's a what's the word? There's been this obfuscation of the male and female role in nature. And I think that men feel that their role is being taken away from them as a result of all these social changes that have happened to favor women.
Yeah. Hey, Outlaw. Oh, hi, Bruce. Another breast fan? Wait, what? Feminism today is not feminism. Very true. Very true. Hi, Harbinger. Yeah, and I was kind of talking about, like, a lot of these people are trying to blame the patriarchy for a lot of issues, but I mean, is it like the redhead in particular, I believe, said that, like, oh, you know, patriarchy, capitalism is because of patriarchy, but like maybe this patriarchal society is because of capitalism instead. Maybe capitalism doesn't have a gender.
Well, you know, Outlaw says that he thinks that there's a lot of overlap. My opinion is, yeah, there probably is a lot. I mean, there definitely is a lot of overlap. I think it's like the chicken and the egg thing. I don't necessarily think that the overlap is because people like conservatives feel this way. I think that or right wingers feel this way. I think that what's happened is that the people who have been more open to looking at arguments that run against the mainstream narratives are being cast by society as right-wingers. So as a result of that, it's treated like there's some political divide, but that's a deliberate tactic to separate people, right? So that these issues don't get resolved. I don't think that it's a partisan issue.
I got you, Bruce. Hi, Sip. Her name is Big Red, yeah. Full of hot air. She's a big red air balloon. But yeah, I mean, and then we have statistics like this where so many men are killed in military that's because men are, in the selective service. So, but obviously a lot of men choose to join the military, maybe right when they turn 18, in order to serve their country. That's a very masculine thing to do. And there are women in the military, but far less women. So, I mean, in that regard, obviously all military deaths are horrible. And I think death is the great equalizer, if anything. But I mean, these numbers don't really surprise me either, since like so many more men are in the military. And there are very few women, and especially even a smaller percentage of women are in the dangerous jobs in the military.
Yep.
But so yeah, this is a representation right here of just like how men are expendable, right? Men are groomed and taught that they are expendable. What was it? Men produce and women reproduce, right?
Yep. Exactly.
And as a woman, it kind of sucks to hear that, like watching some of these interviews, like hearing these takes. I'm not going to pretend that as a woman, it's not kind of hard to stomach, right? Because I have grown up with like this idea that, women are more than just our bodies, which is true, right? But that can go into a negative thought pattern of not just like a self negative pattern, but just like negative for society, like the pattern of like, I do not mean more than men do because I am a woman and because I have the ability to reproduce. That's not what makes me better than anyone else. What makes me better is that I'm woke.
I'll be right back. One sec.
Okay. Only recently have women been able to join military and combat positions? Yeah, definitely. I've known great women that join the military and they tend to have more masculine traits compared to the average woman. Yeah, of course. Of course. Hey, Bill. People seem to forget before modern sanitary products, women were more restricted. Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Oh, and there's another part. Yeah, let me get to that, actually. That reminds me of another part in here. Where was that? I want to talk about reproductive rights because, something that she pointed out that I don't even necessarily like, I'm not going to say I disagree with it, but I'm going to say that like I have opinions on it. You cannot argue with this. You cannot argue with the fact that women have more choices when it comes to controlling reproduction. Men have 3 choices, women have all these, right? However, a lot of birth control is not healthy for women. It's not good for their bodies. Think about it. You are manipulating your hormones every single day with a pill. Or the ring. I used to have the ring, and that would just like mess with progesterone in my body, and that was just inside of my body every day. It was only out for my period. The IUD things where they like literally inject, like it's a small surgery in your arm, and it like slowly like releases stuff into your bloodstream. Like how do people think that this is safe, right? I agree that women have more control over the ability to over contraception. However, I do not think that these forms of contraception are safe for women. I was terrified to learn that the ring, it's why I stopped using it eventually. It actually can cause blood clots. There have been studies that have come out about a lot of birth control that just it hurts women's bodies over time, and I don't like that at all. You know, I think that people figured it out for a long time, and you know, paid for their mistakes with having children in the past. So I think that more people need to talk about that. More people need to talk about like the dangers of birth control. So in that regard, I mean, I kind of see how maybe some women would leave it up to the man to have a condom instead. I don't think a vasectomy is a good idea until after you've already had children or frozen your sperm for later, because there is a chance that it's not reversible, which is the narrative that's going around, is that vasectomies are reversible, 100% reversible. That's not true. There have been successful reversals, but that's not all the time. That goes along with, you know, hurting your body in order to be sexually promiscuous. So I think that you shouldn't have sex with someone unless you're willing to take the chance. But you know, that's a hot topic, right? I think that you should, I also think that you should be free to, you know, sleep around with people who you want to, but that's if you are educated on the possible negative effects of contraception. That's my take.
Sorry, keep going. I'm still trying to handle something work related. Give me 1 sec.
Everything okay? Do you agree with my take?
I was barely listening. I'm trying to, like I said, I'm
Oh,
trying.
you know my take, that, you know, contraception is dangerous for our bodies, and, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll be right back.
Okay. And then there's like rhetoric like this.
Because ultimately, she is the most impacted. There's just no question, and she ultimately has the responsibility for that.
This next clip is from Wendy Williams. It's terrible.
So before we were married, he promised me we would have 2 kids, and now he doesn't want any more. My friends think I should trick him and stop taking my birth control.
Men have never been in control of our bodies. We're the ones in control. Clap if you think that she should trick him. My people. Up next, everybody.
Can we talk about the fact that there is a man in that audience who is also like, yay, completely trick your husband, trap your husband into a child. That's a great idea. Yes, queen. You'll see it in a minute. I'm looking at the audience members here. This is terrible. This guy right here. Look at him. Oh, yes, queen. Yes, I'm on TV. You go, girl. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? It's insane. Insanity. Hey-oh. Hey-oh, hey-oh.
Not even the father.
What does paternity fraud look like?
It's ugly. It's extraordinarily ugly. And we have to distinguish between paternity fraud and wrongful paternity.
Oh yeah, this is horrible.
Wrongful.
This is really fucked up what happens with this guy.
I had sex with 6
So yeah.
guys. I think it was when I was hanging out the window.
So yeah, the story here is that a woman slept with multiple men, and she ended up, I think, was she married to that guy? She ended up marrying one of them, and she was pregnant, and she ended up having kids with him. Well, she was out of town or something, and the son, the little boy, he got extremely hurt. He had to go to the hospital, and he needed blood. And so the father ran to the hospital to give blood because his son was dying, just to find out that it wasn't the same blood. Just to find out that the woman had lied to him and he had been taking care of a son that was not biologically his own. So not only could he help this boy that he had raised as his son, he couldn't help him in that moment. He couldn't give that boy the blood. And he had been betrayed. And he had been betrayed by the woman that he loved.
What was the one about the guy that the mom was feeding him junk food and making the kid stay up late, and he was gaining weight, and the dad was taking care of him, making him exercise and stuff, and making him lose weight. They got all the lawyers involved and showed that proof of it, so the judge said stop weighing the kid.
Oh yeah, let me try to find that.
Oh,
I remember that
God.
guy too. That was so sad. It was so sad. I think it was over here, yeah. This story. Okay, so this guy. This is a very sad story here. Oh yeah, the pay gap thing. Like I said, women don't have as dangerous jobs. If you have a more dangerous job, you get paid more. You have, you know, that is what it is. Anyway, period. End of discussion.
Yeah, rationalize to me how being in a daycare with kids all day merits the same amount of money as a guy, you know, hanging from rafters on a building, like building skyscrapers. Like,
so this poor father, him and his wife, were in a custody battle, and she was overweight, and she purposefully made the child overweight. You know, this little boy, very impressionable, you know, giving him brownies, letting him stay up all night, right? To try to get him to want to spend more time with her than the father here. And so the father was trying to prove like she's a terrible mother. And so, you know, he always kept his son active and had him eating right. Okay. So then after time, the boy started gaining weight, getting bullied at school, started getting made fun of. And so the father, wanting to help him, he said he started letting the kid journal his weight and stuff to show the people, the judges or whatever, the people who are dealing with the custody, that he gains weight every time he's with his mother. And instead of validating that and looking into it, like to the health of the child, they said, the court ordered, you're not allowed to weigh the boy anymore.
that's insanity. Absolute insanity.
Yep. My son's mom wanted to have children with me, and I had always refused. Right. So that was the whole thing. She tricked him into having a child in the first place. And so then he had a child, and he loved his son very much. But he didn't want to have a child with her because she was a fucking tyrant. Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, he should have just broken up with her. Honestly, that's his mistake. He should have just left her. I mean, I get it. I get it, but he should have just left her. If you're in a relationship with someone and it's like, I don't want to have a kid with this person because she's a monster, maybe you should break up with her. Maybe that's a little bit of a pink flag. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just slightly a sign that you shouldn't be with her.
And you know, I'm making these reactionary videos, right? But I want to bring possible solutions too. You know, what's important about critical thinking and being on this reactionary side of YouTube is trying to find solutions in these issues, these very real social issues. I think what would be really great is that if in the social work community, that there were 2 social workers for every family that is in a custody battle, one that represents the father, one that represents the mother. Ideally a man and a woman, but I understand, like we talked about earlier, women are probably more prone to work in social work, so there probably aren't as many men working in social work as women, because women, you know, just naturally kind of go towards working with children. And that's been proven by the documentary Brainwash from Norway, that if you have an egalitarian country and you keep it completely equal and you give everybody really equal rights, that the natural gender roles, people will just naturally go to their gender roles.
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
You know, well, hate on it if you want, but it's the facts.
I think that comes from the fact that, you know, when you're given choices, you can more objectively look at what your body is physically, mentally, whatever capable of, and you go, well, yeah, I'm a 130-pound girl, you know, or whatever. I don't I don't think that I'm going to be able to lift those big blocks to build that skyscraper. Maybe I don't think I should do that. You know, because when we have choice, we can be honest about our capabilities. You know, I mean, like, I guess someone could argue, oh, well, they wouldn't get hired at that construction job, but why? Why? Because again, biology, the biological demands to do that kind of work you get to be strong, you got to be big, you got to be fit in a way that women don't develop. You know, women can become very flexible. They can become very acrobatic. They can be very graceful with their movements and I mean artistic. I think you know, especially they can be very artistic with their bodies. I think it's an incredible degree of athleticism. And I think that women can compete in sports that men also compete in. But when you compare men to women directly, the way that men are built is just physically different from women. So when you start putting that into the job market, it applies the same way. The same reason you don't put a woman in men's basketball is the same reason you don't put women in doing construction work. You know, you just don't, because their bodies don't fit it as well. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not bad. It's not oppressing women to say that. Like, again, if someone perceives that as oppression, go talk to the trees about it. Right? It's nature's fault. Right? Yeah. No one can do anything about that. Nobody can do anything about that unless you know, decide to just start putting hormones in kids so they grow up to be however you want them to be. I guess that's a thing. I guess that's possible.
Just people need to understand that biology is not sexist. It is just nature. It's how nature formed us. We cannot control that. That's the whole point.
Nope, can't control it.
But yeah, I wish there was some way in order to make this social justice system more fair for parents that deserve to take care of their children. Because I know personally, and Zach knows personally, people that have had their children taken away, and those children went to the biological mothers, and those children were abused because of that. The biological mothers abused these children because the courts took the woman's side over actually taking the time and making a case study and having a fair representative of the man too. And I wish I had more. I wish I could do more. Oh, and by the way, before we go on, this guy here, guess what? This man here was murdered. He went to Cassie Jay's wedding, the one who made this. He put his neck out, you know, talking about men's rights, trying to talk about real equality.
Try to fight for changes in laws and bills.
Yep, try to fight for laws and more equal laws. And this man was murdered, shot dead outside of his home. He was suicided, man. Straight up.
You know, going back to this whole thing about, you know, the person in question who's, you know, I'm not going to give any, any identifying details, but I'll just put it like this, okay? I know both the people in this equation very well, and I know for an absolute fact, based on experience, that the woman in question is psychotic and evil, and she won the court case to take the child. And the child, since then, has now had, how do we say this without getting in trouble on YouTube, has had identity problems. And those identity problems have been compounded.
Have been forcefully injected, if you catch my drift.
And there has been, there's
for clout, by the way, to get on the news.
This child was poked publicly on the news so that the mother in question would just conveniently be able to get a job. And
yeah, it's terrible.
So this person used the child as a prop up for themselves, and anybody who knows this person would be like, this person is not suitable to have a kid. But you know, the court system judged in the favor of her for no real good reason at all, just because women, I guess.
How do you feel about completely dismantling social work, leaving it to the parents and family members? If there is a legal issue, the child goes to the next family member or group. I mean, I would love if that was fair. I would love if there weren't so many absolutely screwed up family dynamics. I wish, but if the family dynamics weren't messed up in the first place, then we wouldn't need social work, right? I think social work is important because in theory, in my utopia, they're representatives for both parents and they find what is most fair for the child. And that's just not the case. And I feel like, you know, if it went to the next family member, like which one, right? Of whose side? Because like, you know, it's the man's family or the woman's family. Obviously the man and the woman have different families, separate families. So then it would go to like, well, which side of the family has the child? It's a social work, I think is necessary. But it's taken over by bad ideologies and don't get me started on the foster care system. That's all screwed up too. A lot of these children are victims and it sucks. I've seen the positives and negatives of social work. I've seen the good they can do for children when their parents fail them and they place in foster care rather than family. Yeah, that's true. And for a long time, I actually thought about adopting children instead of having my own. And I'm still not necessarily opposed to that, but it's hard to say because the foster care system screws up kids so much. Like now I probably think that I want to have my own child one day and then maybe adopt a second one. I think that'd be cool. But I don't know. It's hard to say, man. And also something that came up when I was watching this the first time, a little thought experiment, is what would happen if you adopted a child? Because there was a guy here that wanted to have his child, but the woman completely screwed him over. Like he was trying to fight for custody, but he only had a certain time frame to do it until the baby was born. And he had no idea that he had this, like, he basically had an expiration date on trying to claim his child, right? And she didn't tell him in time. No one told him in time, so he couldn't fill out the proper paperwork. Imagine bureaucracy. And so she was able to just give the kid away for adoption at that point. And the men are always looked at as the villains, right? So the adoptive parents are like, what do we do? And then it made me think, it was my own thought experiment, like, what would I do if I was adopting a child with my partner and we decided, oh, we're going to go get the baby, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden this man says, I'm the father. I want the child. This woman screwed me over from being able to have my child. Can I have my child back? Then we'd be in a conundrum. Like, oh God, do we go against the bureaucracy and do we just believe this man that we don't know? Like, do our own biases like keep us from believing this man? What is he going to do with this child that we've, this one in particular, this story right here, see? Says newborn's mother placed child with adoptive parents against his wishes. It's this one. And so I think that like the longer down the road, the harder it would be, I think, for me, because, you know, I want to adopt a child to save a child from someone who doesn't already have parents, right? That's why I want to adopt. So if there is a child that wants to take care of his son, like, look how sad this is. Look how sad this is. Right? Like he just wants to love his baby, but the woman put it up for adoption behind his back, basically, and he couldn't do anything about it. So as someone who appreciates and respects parenthood, I would do everything I could to try to get that baby in the right hands, and you know, I would adopt another who doesn't already have a father willing to take care of it.
You know, I think that these statistics that say 80% of women win alimony cases are very important to look at, and they're very relevant. But what I think that everyone is overlooking in this is alimony cases exist because men want to take care of the children as well.
Yeah.
Like if men didn't care, there would be no alimony cases, right? So what this means is that in the vast majority of cases, men are trying to be able to take care of their children, which means that men do want to take care of children in most cases. It isn't that men want to abandon kids. I don't have a kid, but everybody I've ever known that's a man that's had a child has said that when your significant other has a child, it changes you, and all of a sudden your life, you want nothing more than to raise that child, to take care of that child. And I think that what's happening is with this big disparity of alimony and all these, making it so difficult for men to have access to their children, it's breaking men. because it's taking away part of their role in the natural process of child rearing. And I think that the whole thing is designed to it's emasculation. You know, if you don't even get to have access to something that you helped create, because you didn't birth the baby, therefore you have no control over the baby after it's born. Like it's just emasculating. You know, like imagine if we made a business and because even if we're brother and sister, but like let's say that we make a business and we go to sign up for the business and you put more money into it than I did to start the business up or whatever. You put more into it, but I was still a part of making the business happen, and the government said, well, she's a woman and she put more money into it, therefore you don't really get to have any say so what goes on in this business. Like, I don't know, it just seems like it's I understand the proportional element of it, but I also
I disagree with this. I disagree with that. I think because of the bearer of the child, with respect, of course.
No, what I'm saying though is that there's this massive assumption that women should take the kid because women are the ones that are going to be more interested in, or more invested in taking care of it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I don't think that that's fair or true or accurate, and I don't think that the argument of she bore the baby, therefore she's more entitled in that regard is fair. Because
that's fair. Yeah,
that the man
I agree. What you're saying is fair. Yeah. No, I do agree with you. I do not think that because the mother birthed the child that alone makes her the a better caretaker, in general. That doesn't prove that you can be a good parent. That doesn't prove anything. Where was I going? I had a thought. Custody battles are a hard thing to think about because like, yeah, obviously paying alimony means that the man wants to take care of the child. Me and Zach's father is a perfect example of someone who avoided paying alimony because he didn't give a crap about taking care of his children. He left, right? So the men that still pay the alimony to tyrannical women, that, like, I don't know, there's something that shows that man is trying to take care of the child in whatever way that he can, court ordered, right? And no matter what, it's not fair to split a child between two homes. It's not fair to the child, but I mean, there are definitely men who just leave and say, screw the kids that I've made. And my brother and I are products of that, and it sucks. My mother had no help growing up. My mother never got remarried. She had to work 3 jobs to be able to support me because my father was a deadbeat. So I think that only proves further that the men who still continue to pay child support through the child's development, even to women who are tyrannical, I think that proves that they are at least trying to support in one way or another.
I think that you can look at it from an even further greater perspective on how emasculating it is to men, because it's saying, well, your time with the child has a dollar value. So, like, see, we're not going to let you see your child as much as you want, but your money will be a good substitute to your fatherhood. Thank you very much. Cha-ching. You know what I mean? Like, it's even further going down that thing of, like, men are given medals because they give themselves, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you're now, since you're just a medal, since you're just a plaque on the wall, you're just a statue, and you're just a producer. Well, instead of being a father, a role model, you're going to be a money provider. You're not going to be a father figure. So it's like literally saying that your labor is the only thing that you're worth when it comes to raising the child you helped create. And that's terrible.
Yeah. This is a little graph she did about, like, the green means, like, something that would be favorable to the father. And, no matter what, if the mother does not want the child, no matter what, every option is not favorable to the father. Different story. Did you hear about the town hall article on LGBTQ fans of the playground that adopted 2 special needs children and harmed them? It's disgusting. Wait, when was that? I mean, unfortunately, I believe it, but I've heard of that. In most cases, women make better single parents. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm talking about this through the lens of someone who's, trying to speak up for men who can't speak up for themselves in this society. But I definitely 100% believe that, women are naturally created to take care of children. I think so, because we are biologically created to bear the child. So of course we're biologically created to take care of them better in theory. But I think that there are evil women who are not meant to be mothers. And I think there are very, very good fathers who have been stolen their right of fatherhood by evil women. But yeah, I think in general, women do care about the kids that they bear, of course. And that they are naturally from Mother Nature, biologically given those skills.
Well, then let's extrapolate that. If women are supposed to be accepted as the better child raisers, so the courts deem in favor of women more frequently, right? Because women are, in theory, the better child raisers, then why aren't men afforded the same ideology about their labor? Why is the wage gap a thing? Right? Okay, if women want to take on, we're better at raising kids, therefore that justifies us having them, and more often in these types of cases, then men should be able to say, well, we're better at doing this kind of labor, so we should make more money. Because if we're talking about what we're inherently better at, if women are compensated more legally by being given children more frequently, men should be compensated more frequently or more often or more fair or more plentifully than women are, because we have this biological propensity. But you can't do that, right? That's sexist to say that, right? So it's not like the whole thing isn't really about equality. It's about women having all the things that men have, and men not having any advantages based on their own biological propensities. I'm sure that you could take any man, not any man. I'm sure you could find men that would say, well, yeah, I'm giving up all my money to this woman who won't even let me see my kid, right? But that same woman will say, I want to get more money. There should be the wage gap should disappear or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see the argument?
Yeah, I see the argument. If losing parents or them abandoning you, mark on children regardless of age. We saw this already. Go back a little bit.
Hang on, I'll be right back again.
Yep.
1 sec.
I have evidence that suggests her development raising 5 years is best by women, while 6 and beyond is best by men. Oh, okay. All right, well, there you go. First 3 to 5 years, best done by women, and then years 6 and beyond, best done by men. Okay. Respectfully, what's your source? Where'd you hear that? I mean, I could believe it. Just want to know where you read it. Children need both parents. Yeah, I definitely believe that there needs to be a healthy masculine and feminine representation in every household, for sure. Because then, if you are missing one, like I did, I had horrible discernment skills until I was 28 and met my brother. And he taught me what good and bad men are, because I didn't have a father who could teach me what good and bad men are. And yeah, I guess some of you might not know that, but I only met my brother. My brother and I are long lost siblings. We only met 2 years ago. It's really quite a wonderful thing. And now he's my best friend. Yeah, I see Outlaw, yeah. It's hard for single mothers, for sure. Rikita Law retweeted the article as it was being ranked on Google. Oh, I bet. The Social Security Act, it incentivizes the current state of custody awards and child support. Oh, okay. Thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Eduardo, I agree that women do deserve to have the right to take care of their child because they bear it. But I also think that like I said, in my own perfect utopian world, I would have 2 social workers for each case like this, each custody case, and one that would represent the man, one that would represent the woman, and then they would kind of like they would monitor each of the parents, because like I said, we want to avoid those stories of like the mom literally making the son fatter over time, you know, in order to like relate to her better and like, you know, try to woo the child into wanting to spend time with her over the father. Like we want to avoid situations like that. So I think in order to avoid that, in order to avoid corruption, I think if there's any custody battle, because you're deciding to divorce your partner, right, after you have a child, and so because there is another human life involved, the life of that child, that means that you're going to need some objective outside perspectives, because the bias is too strong, right, between a mother and a father. So I think there needs to be equal representation on both sides, and then they can figure out, you know, the custody of who gets what, because unfortunately there are cases of women who take advantage of the system, and the children end up getting abused.
I guess one question I have in regards to all this is that if all these
Hi, Sean.
that do these, you know, the fight for custody of their children, they want to take ownership of the child, but it's like they want to take ownership of the kid, but they also want to take ownership of the man's money while limiting his ability to see the child. Like, that's not fair either. Like, how can you say that you take ownership, you take primary ownership or custody over a child, but at the same time you're going to take ownership over another person's income? Like, I don't know. That just doesn't seem right to me. Like, there's something in my mind that tells me, like, if a man is paying child support, he should have equal access to the child, right? Like if the thing is, like, she is considered the legal owner or whatever of the child, but a man is having to pay as if he were providing for the child there, he should be entitled to some degree of equal ability to see him or her, the child. Like, I don't really understand how that argument even holds water, because again, it's just giving more advantages to women. The woman gets the child and the money, and the man gets what? He has to give his money and sacrifice his child. Why?
Well, no matter what, the child needs money, no matter what.
Yeah, but my point is that if someone's going to say, this child is mine, and I want them to be mine, I take care of them on my own, but I still want this other person's money, how do you, like, that's not fair. That's not a fair system. Right. When someone, like, if I have to pay for something that I get no access to or limited access to, that's not fair. If
Jared.
I'm forced to pay for something that I don't have full access to, that's not fair.
I totally understand your argument. I do think that we live in a world where you need two incomes to take care of a child. Like I said, my mom had to work 3 jobs in order to take care of me. So, you know, if she had a second person with a second income, maybe it would have been easier. Right? So
yeah, well, how about this case where a certain person that we know about is trying to extend child support beyond 18 just because they can't keep a job or just because they want to go around and drink? But the thing is, every time the courts look at it, they deem this person to be a fit mother. Right. But
I think the argument that is here is that she is an outlier.
Maybe. I don't know if that's true or not when you look at how many times men lose alimony cases. Like, I don't think it's an outlier. It might be on one side of the curve or the other, but I don't think it's an outlier because of how disproportionately women win alimony cases. I don't think it's an outlier at all. I think it's more likely because of how many women do get child support.
I mean, it's hard to say. We don't have the numbers. But
yeah, that's fair, but
your feelings are valid. Women are necessary for teaching children how to live in society. Men are necessary for teaching children how to survive in the world. Just my thoughts. I think that both men and women are important to a child's development because they both are naturally and biologically more attuned to different things in the world. So, I mean, it would make sense that no matter the gender of the child, both influences need to be there because, like I said, learned lots of things from my mother, and I love her very much. She taught me how to hold my own and be resourceful, and she taught me how to go after things that I want, how to be articulate, how to speak clearly, and all that. But it wasn't until I had a positive male influence in my life, my brother, until I learned discernment and how to differentiate people's intentions with me. So, I think it's hard for me to just categorize it into like kind of generalizing into what a woman does for the child versus a man. It's hard for me to kind of generalize it down like that. But yeah, I mean, bottom line is that children need men and women, positive influences in their life. And I've talked about this before. Like if, what if one day I end up marrying a woman and I adopt a child with her, then I would still have my brother in my life, and he's a positive male influence in my life. I would still have positive male influences in my child's life, no matter what gender they are, because I find that to be so important, even if I'm not in a heterosexual relationship. But I mean, at this point in my life, I'd like to have a husband one day, and I'd like to have a child, but who knows what's going to happen to me. So, but no matter what, I'm going to make sure that my child has a positive male role because I have an amazing brother, and I'm thankful for that. And I know that a lot of people don't, right? I know that a lot of people aren't blessed with family members of the opposite gender that are a good influence on them. Or, sometimes even like, let's say you're a son raised by your father and your father's not a good influence. Sometimes neither is a good influence on you in the cases where both parents are in the home, but they're both toxic. I'm extremely lucky that I have my brother, and I'm thankful for him. I love you.
Love you too.
But I think that we are a generation of fatherless children. I think that there are so many fatherless kids in the millennial generation, and it's really sad. And that could be for a plethora of different reasons. It could be because a lot of the fathers left or are abusive, and it could also be because the system is geared towards women. It's hard to say at this point because we've all been propagandized so hard, and there's no way to know except on an individual case by case basis. Whew.
Yeah, maybe so.
States are reimbursed for all child support, but only if the father is less than 50% present. Maximum reimbursement is 66% for less than 25% father custody. Both need to be there. It's just saying which tends to do what role in the development of successful child. Yeah, for sure. Women alone cannot raise a man. Yeah.
I agree with that. I think Fight Club handles that very well. I think the movie Fight Club addresses that very, very well. I do agree with that. I don't, just like a man can't fully raise a girl. Like how can I ever, like, think about it. If there were a daughter, if I had a daughter and I got custody without the mother, how would I explain a girl's, my daughter's puberty to her? Like, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
You would call your sister.
Well, exactly. But I'm saying I don't have another woman influence. I'd have no idea how to teach her those things or raise her about those. I'd be completely clueless, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm okay with admitting that. That doesn't hurt me to think that I would not know how to raise a girl going through her puberty years. I would have no idea.
Yeah, but thankfully we have each other, and that's good.
Yep.
So our children never have to feel alone. But like I said, and it doesn't even, I mean, it doesn't matter what gender the child is. They need both influences, but yeah, there's no way to raise a person with every skill they need to learn to be able to survive in this world on their own without both influences in a positive way. And if they are raised by one of the influences in a negative way, it will have extreme consequences for them in their adult life, or, it'll get Freudian. Hey, Elmsy. Yeah, I tend to agree. What's the line in Fight Club?
We're a generation of men raised by women. Maybe what does it say? Maybe another woman. Maybe it isn't another woman that we need, or something like that. I can't remember.
Yep. Yeah, so what this documentary shows also is that, you know, as a society, we don't see men as human beings. We see them as human doings, right? What can men do for society? Rather, what can they be for society? And I think that it is a very strong sentiment.
You know, I don't know.
What's up?
It's just I see this stuff that starts talking about abuse, and it just, you know.
Oh, I can skip this.
No, I'm not saying skip it. It's just, you know, like I'm reticent to talk about it publicly, not because I'm ashamed of it or something, but like, you know, I don't want there to be comments of like, well, you know, you should have done this or done that just because of some like hyper macho thing, you know, like
that's fair.
Like I think that in situations of domestic abuse where a man is being abused by a woman, I think that people who argue that, oh, you should have smacked her, you should have hit her, I don't know if they maybe some people have been in that situation, but I think that anyone who I can't use
violence is horrible advice. I mean, violence in any way is horrible advice.
No, what I'm saying is, I think that you have to if you're a person that doesn't want to be violent, if you don't have violent propensities, you don't have violent tendencies, and you care about someone, I think that you have to put yourself mentally in the position of like, what would I do if someone that I really cared about assaulted me? Would I just be so quickly prone to fight back? Or would I think in my mind, I don't want to hurt this person, maybe there's something going on behind the scenes that I don't know about? And so I think that when you hear all these stories of domestic abuse against men, a lot of times they don't do anything. They don't fight back, not because it's a system that won't listen to them, one, first of all. Second of all, because I think a lot of men just don't want to harm anybody. You know, we have this like the societal thing where men are toxic, men are violent, men are evil, but I don't think all men are like that. I think you can be a strong man without having to be violent. And I think that a lot of men are like that. And so if they get attacked, they don't really know what to do.
Yeah. And being masculine is not a negative thing. Masculinity is not inherently toxic, I don't think. I think unchecked, repressed masculinity is toxic. It can lead to toxicity, but I don't think, you know, just being masculine is toxic. I think that it's the society that's repressing men is making them toxic. And yeah, you bring up a good point, Sean, because, you know, talk about like, oh, men aren't in the home as often, blah blah blah. Well, that's because they're working. They are working to take care of the family that's at home, and so people need to keep that in mind.
Well, it makes me go back to humans didn't evolve for this. We're not equipped for this because you know, even 200 years ago, men were out in the field working. That was right outside the house. You know, even my great grandfather, my grandmother, grew up with my great grandfather and great grandmother. He worked out in the farm. When they needed him, he was outside. They could call for him, Papa, and you know he was out there. You know, so like even then he was near to the home if he needed to be. All this commercialism and all of this, you know, this fast paced, have to be at a job 40 miles away and get there by 8 o'clock in the morning. I think that's a big source of the problem, in that sense of the men being away from the families.
Yep. Obviously, all domestic violence cases are very extreme and very horrible, and I feel very bad for all of the victims, including my brother. I do think that it's important to have shelters available for men to have safe spaces too. I'm pretty sure every state, I think she goes over it here, but I think every state has a shelter for women for abuse, but only one state.
Arkansas.
Yeah, only one state has a shelter for men. So that alone proves that society doesn't see domestic abuse with men as a real serious issue, and of course it is.
Yeah, and look at it from the perspective of from a man. What does it say to men? Deal with it.
Right.
That's what it says. It says you don't have an outlet. You don't have anywhere to go. Deal with it. You're a man. Be a man. You're a man, right? You get hit, toughen up. Somebody abuse you, toughen up. Deal with it. You don't need help. Toughen up. Be a man.
Okay, so yep, and some of these places have over 1,000, and yeah, it completely just, you know, validates that horrible rhetoric of, you know, get over it. You're a man. You'll be fine. Stop crying. Get over it. Be a man. Grow some balls. You know. So what if she hit you? But women can be violent too, and women can be underhanded and hurt men. And so this alone proves that domestic violence is not a serious thing in the United States. It's not taken seriously as far as being on the man's side. And men need a safe space too. Where are they gonna go? Just out on the street?
That's or the police tell you you can't stay at your house. We'll let you leave, but you can't stay here. You got to come back here tomorrow in your own home that you paid for.
Yep. Yep. In a situation where a woman is attacking you, you are not allowed to hit her back. You have to restrain her or just leave. If you hit her back, you go to jail, even if she is straight up abusing you. So, and that's not fair. Having the capacity for violence doesn't mean men won't want to use it. Exactly. Having the capacity for violence does not mean men want to use it.
Nope. Most men don't get violent unless they have to. I know that for a fact from basically every man I know.
Men are dumb, women are evil. That's a fact. The best place is a church. Interesting thought. If could you have gone to a church that night, Zach?
Yeah, sure. If there was somebody at the church. I mean, yeah, I could have gone to a church. I could have found a church, sure. But that's not the first thing that goes to your mind, you know?
Yeah. I mean, unless you're a devout Christian, right?
Yeah. You don't think to go to a church. You just think like no one's gonna believe my story anyway. That's what goes through your head.
Yeah.
Because then like, what do you say? My girlfriend beat me up. You pussy. Like that's what you're afraid of hearing, right? How'd you let a girl beat you up?
Yeah. Men are programmed to feel bad about asking for help by itself, but even more so like to admit that they were abused by a woman. It's almost like a salt in the wound kind of thing. I mean, and that also like goes in other situations too. Like men are afraid or shamed into not speaking out about any kind of abuse that they experience, not just physical.
Yeah, what was that thing that said about the article from Jezebel that said that they were asking for it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we hit our boyfriends. They were asking for it.
Yeah, I'll try to find that part. Yeah, it's very similar rhetoric, you know. There's this part where they literally said that the men were asking for it. Like what the hell? Like that's the same rhetoric that, you know, victim blaming. It's the same victim blaming rhetoric. Churches are the centerpiece of the community. Is the best place to go is the church, and you know, maybe you're right. You know, maybe these men should go to church in these situations. But like I said, if a man is not already, you know, devout and a devout Christian anyway, if they're not a religious person, they're not going to be thinking that. They're going to be thinking, I have nothing.
Yeah, and I think the more I think about the idea of going to a church and asking, men are taught not to ask for help. Because so the first thing that goes to my mind is like, well, if I went to a church, how do they know that I'm not just a grifter? You know, how am I going to ask them for help? Like, I might just be a grifter trying to get free money, free help from them. You know, like how, you know, and that's the thing. Men are taught to rationalize not asking for help because grow up, be a man, tough it out, do it on your own. So when we think I need help, what goes through our minds, my mind is, and I know other guys like this too, you have a thought process of like, well, maybe I can do this instead. Maybe I don't need to ask for help. Well, they're going to say no anyway. Maybe it's not worth the effort. Maybe I better spend my time on other things. Maybe I need to be improving myself. That's the man rhetoric that we get when we think about asking for help.
This is this woman opened, she had a shelter for women, for violent women, but also a shelter open for domestic violence against men. And this is just a bunch of women a long time ago. I don't remember exactly what year this was, but they're all talking about like how they all have violent tendencies. And you know, people were picketing outside of the place to keep a safe space for men because the rhetoric was like, oh, that somehow supports domestic violence from men. Like, I don't know. The narrative is just all screwed up. That what this documentary really proves is that the narrative is so shifted. It's not even, it's all a disguise. It's not even the narrative is to support women. It's to not support men. The narrative is more against men than it is for women. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. And there are a lot of similarities with these extreme feminists with a certain group these days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think about that redheaded girl later, and somebody said, like, well, what about this situation? How about, you know, you're talking about how this affects men disproportionately, and you're advocating for it. How do you justify that when you're hurting men? She said, cry me a river. You know, like, that's the attitude.
Yep. This actually proves that there are more men victims of domestic abuse than women, actually. But the news is going to, you know, push the narrative about, you know, talk about the women's statistics. Don't show the real statistics. Don't show the men's. Just focus on the women's statistics because women's are always the victims. And it's so weird because women want to say like, I'm a strong, independent woman who don't need no man, you know, fuck the patriarchy, fuck capitalism or whatever. But yet they're always willing to also admit like, I play the victim, right? If it benefits them.
What blows my mind is through all of this, I'm pulling the liberal card here. They're actually hurting gay people through this too. Because there are plenty of gay people, I'm sure, that have been in domestic violence situations with their partners.
Yeah.
But because there's no system in place for them, it's hurting them because they have nowhere to turn. And if men are these like evil, toxic, violent people, then you would think you need more protections for gay people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be more exposed to the toxic men, right? But you don't ever hear that from the gay community, ever. 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 I wonder why. Because it doesn't fit the narrative.
Yep. This movie is extremely important, and I think everyone should watch it. Everyone should get a chance to watch this. It is extremely eye-opening to see both sides of things. I also recommend everyone watch Brainwash. That's a little harder to find, though.
Yeah, no, it's on the YouTube. The Wikipedia has all the videos on it. I'll link it.
Yeah, Navask.
Yep, you can watch all of them straight off the Wikipedia article. I'll link it right now.
Tell them you aren't part of the faith but need help. What can you exchange for that help? I'll clean whatever I can for a safe place to sleep. Yeah, and that's something to keep in mind, you know. But you know, if you're in the wrong neighborhood, churches aren't safe spaces either these days. I know for a fact that Christian churches are being bombed in certain countries because the people that live there now primarily are against the Western religions. So they are bombing the churches. That's a real thing that people in America don't know or care about. Anyway. They tried to open a men's shelter in Toronto a few years back and it was protested against and shut down. That is horrible.
Why? Where should that money go instead, huh? Where? To women's rights? Where? How? What more do women need? What more do women need in society they haven't already gotten? Please tell me.
I mean, I mean, I wish that women in certain places were more protected.
Yeah.
I think women do get assaulted all the time, still to this day, by evil men, but it's not because they're men. It's because of other factors. So I wish there was a way to protect women from those assaults. That's what I wish women had.
I guess what goes to my mind is how do you rationalize closing down a men's shelter though? Like, oh, you don't deserve as a man a place to be safe if you need it. No, take this building down, shut them up.
Yep.
You know, like. Oh, that's interesting what Neat Scholar says. Very interesting.
Huh. Well, I mean, I can attest to that with my own gay relationship. The most violent person I ever been in a relationship with was a woman. So I can personally attest to that statistic. I guess I'm a statistic, you guys. Nice. Yeah, she was very violent with me. She shoved me and pushed me around. Yep. I also stopped her from running out into traffic while she was drunk one time because I didn't want her driving home drunk, so I hid her keys. And so she thought that the reasonable thing to do next was to try to run into traffic to prove a point to me. And I ran out into traffic after, and I pulled her back in. Dumb bitch.
What? Crazy.
Yeah, she was a dumb bitch.
What Outlaw 2 saying here about the water analogy. So there's an old article about the monkey sphere. I think it's kind of corroborating your point. The monkey sphere was like a term, I think it was a sociological term for like how many people someone can actively care about. And I'm pretty sure that it said I think that the result of the study is they found that the average human can't even actively care about more than 15 people at a time at the most.
Yeah.
And you can't consider more than, I think it was like 100 people when you make a big decision. You can't really account for more than 100 people. So like it makes sense that you'd only want to give your water metaphorically to a very limited amount of people. That's human nature.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, Outlaw. It'd be pretty great if they had one melee and long range weapons training in schools.
I don't hate the idea of that, actually. I don't think that's like teaching people to defend themselves. I don't think
I mean, I don't know what I'm feeling right now. My what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, I like shooting guns, pew pew, that's fun. But I don't think that I should shoot one under the age of 18. I mean, maybe kids should learn how to shoot before 18 if we're in like a war situation, but like I don't know, man. Like guns are very dangerous, so my heart tells me that I probably wouldn't want my kid shooting a gun until they're 18.
Yeah, I don't know about guns for me, but I'm kind of questioning the guns thing too. But at least having like when you go to PE classes in school, teaching some basic self-defense.
Yeah, self-defense, like, martial arts. Fine. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine.
But maybe weaponry not till 18. That's my 2 cents on that. Rifle teams were great in schools. That's true. They did have rifle teams in schools, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I forgot all about
that. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know.
That's just become a figment of the past, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
The JROTC rifle team captain from 10th to 12th grade. Oh my god.
I forgot all about that. I guess that is a thing, isn't it?
Oh my god, man. As a woman who wants a child, I feel like, I don't know, that scares me a little bit.
They'd always put blanks in the guns, of course. I would in those situations. You know, they're never gonna put bullets in there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't see a huge deal with like maybe like a kid playing around with a BB gun, but I think I really would rather wait till my kid be 18, but I guess that's up to the parents. It's just, I don't know, anything that could potentially kill the child probably shouldn't be done until they're 18. That's, I mean, I'm putting my line in the sand there. I'm putting my foot down on that one. Social media oversaturated our belief of our connection and allowed for the ability to connect. Yeah. I'm in the process of getting my CWP. Rifle teams had actual rounds. They did. See. If it was blanks or BBs, I could maybe be like, okay, but if my son came home and was like, yeah, hey mom, I'm 14 and we had real bullets in our guns today and we were flipping them around and shit, I'd be like, please don't. I'd be like, can you wait? Can you like play football or something? Like play soccer, join a sport just for a couple years, make mama less scared for you. Oh, Emma Watson. Well, we have Emma Watson on the screen. A little side note, which by the way, please guys, go watch my new video I just posted. It's off of the stream I had the other day. About the Twitter situation, but I made a video on it. I cut it down into like 20 minutes. Please watch that. Go give it a like because, you know, that side of Twitter is not too happy about it. So they're disliking my video. I just know it. So it's no surprise that that's the most disliked video that I've put out since I've started making videos after, you know, the help from Jeremy. So please go watch that. It's called Hogwarts Legacy or Dead by Daylight. A lesson in virtue signaling and hypocrisy. Maybe they just don't like the title. I don't know. But anyway, on that note, Emma Watson, who is one of the stars of Harry Potter, as you guys might know, she is, you know, talking against J.K. Rowling, even though J.K. Rowling made her a literal millionaire. So yeah, that's nice.
Like, just like I said to you, as soon as she stops taking royalty checks for Harry Potter, then I'll give a shit.
All the kids, all of them, all of the Harry Potter kids are speaking out against J.K. Rowling because it's the cool thing to do. And they are millionaires because of J.K. Rowling. So nice. And there are even people that worked on the new Harry Potter game that are voice actors and stuff that are now like backpedaling so hard to the left. They're like, oh, we didn't know. We don't agree with what JK is talking about. Don't cancel us, please. Ugh. Anyway. Physical intervention skills, that's good. And that is important, I think, for children, for sure. Especially in these days. Nothing deadly before 18, so no driving at 16. More driving-related deaths than gun deaths. That's an interesting point there, William. How do I feel about driving? Well, I don't like to drive because I got in a terrible car accident in the year of 2016 that I ended up going to the hospital and I got a concussion. I got T-boned in the middle of the rain. And that bitch tried to sue me, by the way, guys. She T-boned me and she still tried to sue me. That did not hold up. My car got completely totaled. I got thrown in an ambulance and I had a concussion. It was a terrible situation. My friend was in the car too. He was perfectly okay. It just hit me. It was fucked up. So, I don't know. Obviously, I don't want to infringe on my child's freedom to be able to like go places and stuff. I have to think about that. What do you think, Zach? Is the threat of the gun the same as the car?
I think that all right. So I mean, it's kind of a nuanced opinion. It might take a minute to explain, but I think that there is we're talking about statistics here. There's far more statistical variance involved with driving a car because you have less control over the outcomes than you do with a gun. Like if you use proper gun control and proper gun safety, that unless there is some extremely outlier event like the gun backfiring or some malfunction of the gun, if you follow all of the gun safety rules, only point at things you're willing to kill, don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot, keep the safety on, all those kinds of things, like you won't hurt anyone. You won't. Unless, like I said, unless there's some freak accident. In a car, you have only a finite amount of control over the outcome of your drive. I got my first wreck when I was 16. It was tiny, just a fender bender, but it wasn't my fault. I mean, I guess it was my fault, but what happened was I was pulling into a place and somebody just slammed on their brakes, dead stop, slammed on their brakes, and I fender bendered them, and it was wet outside. So those were all variables that are I only had so much control. Yeah. So by that logic, I think that there is an element of saying teaching someone to safely use a gun is less dangerous than someone driving in a car. Does that mean that I think kids should be carrying around guns willy-nilly? No, because that's just irresponsible. Kids are kids, and kids are stupid.
Yeah, but does that mean that 16-year-olds should drive all willy-nilly? Yeah, that is a very hard question. That's tough. It's a good thought experiment there, Will.
Yeah, that is a really good. Yeah, because see. I think I see the reasoning for letting kids drive so early. You're kind of prepping them for the fast-paced world, right? Part of their growth, part of the process of growing up is teaching you to be functional in society.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask. I didn't get my license till I was 19. I had a boyfriend that drove me around, so I didn't get my license till I was 19.
Yeah, I think that in a culture like an American culture, I think that it is important that everyone have some degree of education on firearms because they're so widespread and they're everywhere that even if you don't want to own a gun, there's a non-zero chance that you'll be presented with one at some point in your life and you will have to use one because of the nature of being in America. Yeah. So I think that there is, from that perspective, there's absolutely an argument for teaching gun safety to people. And as soon as people are old enough to be in a situation where they might have to use one, I think that it's fair to say that you should have some kind of training on it. But see, the problem is that
that's fair.
With all this anti-gun rhetoric going on in the United States, political posturing is obviously going to prevent that from happening. But the more I'm thinking about it, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I think that kind of like you go to driver's school or driver's tests, a license test, I think that you should have to do the same thing.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Kind of training.
I think I can agree with that. Yeah, at 16, you learn about the dangers and the safeties of guns. But you can't have one until you're 18. But at 16, you can learn about them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair argument.
I think that is fair. Yep. Well thought, my friend. I believe that Will.
Who was that in the chat?
The Loa. I believe that if everyone is going to own a gun, they should have to learn how to use it and take care of it. Oh yeah, of course. I believe that it is completely your right to have a gun. I've shot guns in my life. The first time I ever shot a gun, I believe, was my 21st birthday, actually. I shot a rifle. And then I shot a pistol for my 22nd birthday. And for my 23rd birthday, I shot an arrow. So for 3 years in a row, I wanted to try different weapons. Oh, and for my 24th birthday, I did throwing axes. That was kind of like a theme. Me and my mom would go, do dangerous stuff on my birthday after I turned 21. I had hot wings. I was living in Buffalo. I was going to school in Niagara Falls. We went to Buffalo, New York. I had hot wings and I shot a gun for my 21st birthday. I didn't even drink on my 21st birthday. I had been drinking since I was 19 because I lived next to Canada. But it was a good time. Good time. I've never shot a shotgun. Not yet. That is something I have not done. Has verbal binding contract law in accordance with Supreme Court rulings. A threat against your life? Really?
How would you prove that? What under what conditions would that even be a thing? I can't imagine. I mean, maybe I'm just being stupid, but I cannot imagine a time where you would apply that. How would you prove it? How would you apply it?
Yeah.
Like, what's the? I mean, that's crazy to think about. But what's the practical purpose? Like, when would that practically be used?
Oh yeah. So this part of the documentary is actually crazy. The whole "Bring Back Our Girls" thing, because this was political posturing. Because right before this happened, they literally shot a bunch of boys and just left them dead on the ground. But no one reported on that. It wasn't until the girls started getting abused and trafficked that there was any kind of news about it at all. And obviously, you know, it's a terrible thing. You want to make sure that the girls are safe. Obviously, that is a huge priority. But it is interesting that there was no American news on it when all of the teenage boys were murdered. It's crazy shit. I got a shotgun for your birthday. I just might. Actually, no. I probably won't. But one day I'll shoot a shotgun. Verbal contracts require one witness to exist or a recording. Verbal contracts, eh? False imprisonment. Wait, what? What? What you talking about?
I'm saying as an example of the thing that I was talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Cassie Jaye was a hero for making this movie. I'm convinced that this is one of the most important movies of the past 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, and so is her friend for making the movie too. But like I said, he was murdered after he made this documentary with her. The guy that's talking in it, he was shot and killed outside of his home for speaking out for men.
Well, we don't really know why. No one really knows why. They can't figure out why.
Yeah, but why though? You know, talking about his political opinions with all of this, and then he gets killed outside of his home. He gets shot dead right after with a hit and run. I don't know. Seems sussy to me. But, you know, that's speculation. It says that
conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, the motive for the shooting was unknown after the red pill was released. Okay.
Never mind that he's been fighting against bills all the time, like for years, that, you know, balance the scales for men. You know, never mind that.
Yep. Everyone, fundamental gun safety, responsible handling, accidents will all go away. That's fair. Yeah, the more that people know about the safety, the more accidents will be prevented. Yeah, I can agree with that. Outlaw making a lot of sense. He does make a lot of sense. We appreciate him here. He's part of the new community. Yep. William, did you see my most recent video? Hogwarts versus Dead by Daylight. Oh boy, I wrestled some jimmies over there. People do not like the fact that I am a right-wing conspiracy theorist, turf video essayist. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I know. They've got a list for everybody. Like, everybody's got their little lists, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're all these things.
That's what the left has decided I am now. Because I speak out about men's rights. I speak out about the corruption of e-girls. I speak out against, you know, how it's... I speak out against, you know, my sexual harassment not being put on the same level as J.K. Rowling being a TERF. So now I'm a TERF, but I'm not just a TERF. I am a TERF video essayist, right-wing conservative conspiracy theorist. It's so fun. Great. Great being on this side of YouTube. I love it over here. I really do. Fuck them. Honestly, fuck them. Those people never gave a shit. So. Joe Biden standing in Tennessee. Last threat. Oh, really? Actually, I jumped in. even define right wing anymore. That includes all the other usual insults. Right, exactly. They like go down a list of everything that they think I am. And like I said in the video, which you guys really should watch after I'm done with the stream, please do. Please get my views up and the likes up on that video because the mob is mass disliking it right now. I do talk about that, how they just, they have to go down the list. What is she today? She's a bigot. She's a TERF. She's a right winger. She's making these bizarre videos. When was the flip? When did the flip happen? I don't know. Probably when I got abused by a fan of the playground. That was about then. When no one cared about that. Probably when I flipped.
Like, look at these Scientologists.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Scientology is just like these people. We were watching videos on Scientology last night, me and Zach, because, you know, it's educational content. And they just yell at people, just like these extremists do, just like these radicals. They will get in your face. They will scream at you. They will scream insults at you, crying like freaking babies, saying that you're a horrible person because you have a different opinion. Say that you're fascist and a Nazi. Literally, this is what, that's what Scientologists do. These people are doing the same shit. It's wild, bro. It's wild.
They think for themselves, though.
Oh, I did. People need to learn to divorce the author from the work. Yeah. So I called out their hypocrisy, and they don't like that. They don't like that very much. Scientology tends to try to stick to their own, don't they?
No. Not if you say something they don't like. They'll leave you alone on the street, but the second you say anything against them, they come after you like you're like maniacs.
It's wild. They're a bunch of nutcases, and yeah, they got exposed. Zach was telling me about the story last night. What was the girl's name?
Well, that Lisa McPherson case happened in the 90s.
Yep. They just locked her up and just left her there to die. Because reasons. This woman is a tyrant, and I would not want to be anywhere near where this woman is. She is what we like to call the worst. Caregivers are part of the patriarchy. Oh, honey, please. Please, please, calm down. Oh my god, redhead lady.
Yeah, people know who she is.
Talk shit about Elron Hubbard, see what happens. You know, Zach's nickname for me when we first met was Ellie Ron Hubbard.
Yep, I called her Ellie Ron Hubbard.
It's under my Steam aliases. Guys, I'm very proud of my Steam aliases. They're a flex, okay? One of them was Ellie Ron Hubbard. Obviously I'm not an evil person who will leave people to die and want everyone to destroy each other. However, the sentiment, there's a compliment in there somewhere with the sentiment that I could create and establish and maintain a cult. So thanks for that, brother. Are you taking notes? I watched Leo Ryan documentary on Scientology. I mean, I could watch a whole documentary on it. Zach said that he went in it.
Leah Rainey one? Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Zach said he was obsessed with Scientology for a year of his life.
Yeah. Yep.
He's gonna die alone without children, angry, crazy woman. I know a few of those.
Crazy woman. Yeah, me too.
Funny how she ignores women being asked for and for forcing it onto them. I know, right? How infectious her crazy thinking is. Look at it spreading. I know, it's nuts. Absolutely wild. And this came out, this documentary came out 2016, you said?
2017.
It's only gotten worse. Our society is completely screwed up. These radicals are out of control. And, you know, they're not going to watch this film. And they're the ones that should, right? I watched this with an open mind and an open heart. And I agreed with a lot of what was said in this documentary. And I think it is really important. Though the thing is, I mean, I've been woke, real woke, not fake woke. I've been awake now for probably a year and a half.
Yep.
And so a lot of these things that they said, of course, I already thought the same. The statistics, of course, I didn't know, but they were easy to believe because I know how the world works and I know the narrative. So it wasn't too out of the range of possibilities for me to understand or believe. But people that need to watch this aren't going to. People that need to watch this are just going to get mad and turn it off and be like, the patriarchy, boo. Just there was something else we watched recently that I was like, I enjoyed watching it, but this isn't for me. What was that? I don't remember. But
I don't remember either.
The open-minded ones. Who here has seen What Is a Woman? Has anyone seen that? Have you guys seen What Is a Woman? I've seen that. And like I said, once again, I definitely recommend watching the documentary called Brainwash out of Norway. It is like What Is a Woman if it wasn't hosted by snarky Matt Walsh. It is it's a lot less snarky and sarcastic. It doesn't have, that side of it. And it's a great documentary. It really throws this whole thing on its head for sure. Sounds like Zach was on 4chan during a certain year. Yep. What Is a Woman? I've seen it. It was a great movie. I mean, I think Brainwash is better, but I think it was great. I mean, I to say I enjoyed watching it is a stretch because it makes me fear for society. It makes me sad to see that our society is going down that hole, but I enjoyed watching it because it's funny. People were irredeemable. Of the horned glasses, they're an automatic giveaway. Cassie Jaye took 4 years to actually make that movie. I think she filmed it in 2012. Right, so this was a very long time ago, before all this crazy radical stuff was even going on. So it's like I said, it's only gotten worse, man. I mean, it was a snarky question in some regard, but Matt Walsh came at it very seriously. That's true. I mean, what do you expect? Matt Walsh, he's a caricature, right? He is a character, and you know what you're gonna get if you're seeing Matt Walsh content. I mean, I watch Matt Walsh's content with, take it with a grain of salt. Know that he has his belief systems and he has his stances, but that's the thing. You have to watch these creators with your own critical thinking skills and not think that what they say is necessarily the end all be all. And you have to be that way with everybody. All content creators. Me too. And I welcome critical thinking and challenging my views, because how am I gonna keep my mind open? How am I gonna change my views for the better over time if they're not challenged? And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with opening your mind to changing views, as long as you get the evidence and it's for the good of society moving forward. And things might change in a year from now of what I feel, but constantly growing and educating ourselves is a good thing. But that means you have to look at different perspectives from all types of people. People are ironically trying to tell me that now I have my own echo chamber, which is so far from the truth. My new community challenges my thinking more than any other internet community I ever had. My old internet community was just a bunch of simps who never challenged my viewpoints.
I don't know which one I like better.
No, I'm not advocating for simps, Zachary. Listen, I made the video, okay? I made the Confessions of a Reformed E-Girl. There's no going back after that. There's no going back. I don't want to go back anyway. It's a soulless existence. I like Matt Walsh. He's funny. He is a funny guy. He just had twins. You know that guy has 6 kids? My God. 6 children. His wife, his poor wife. I saw her make a statement about it. She's like, I'm not going to pretend that having twins is easy, you guys. I'm not going to pretend that this shit doesn't hurt. Big Red reminded me of the Crypt Keeper. I am always late to every live stream on any channel. Hey, Taurus. Welcome in. Oh, you think it's French Prince? You have nothing unique about yourself or anything going on in your life. You become red hair Karen. Yeah, basically. Big Red Smasher Pass. Stop it, Will. Don't tell me you're getting that desperate, William. Come on now, buddy. You can do better. Oh my God, Alzy, stop it. William, look what you started. Enough. Yeah, I'm gonna end in about 5 minutes because we have discovered that the algorithm does not like videos over 2 hours long, so I just kind of been chilling, talking to chat. It's been a good time. Been a good stream. Anyway, final thoughts. If you guys have not seen this documentary already, I recommend watching it on your own time. Listening to these people talk is very enlightening. Share it with people that might need to hear it, and hopefully they watch it and not just call you a bigot for sharing it.
Yeah, it's a great film. I mean, Cassie Jaye kind of fell off the radar since then, probably because who knows what type of threats she's gotten and everything like that. But I think that she did the world a wonderful, wonderful service. I think that this is a vital piece that everyone needs to see.
Yeah,
everyone needs to see this. It just needs to happen. There's just no other way about it. Everybody needs to see this, I think.
I mean, a man literally lost his life trying to share these opinions, so that means there must be something that, you know, they're trying to suppress. And of course, we have this woman on the screen who would rather dodge a question. In fact, hold on, before we end here, let's just listen to this like 10 out of 10 dodge of the question.
Women should register for the draft, talking about selective service. Do you think women should also have to register for selective service like men?
I have to think about whether I think it's necessary to go as far as our military officers are recommending. The idea of having everybody register concerns me a little bit unless we have a better idea of where that's going to come out. Where I want people to register, I want every young person to register at the age of 18 to be able to vote automatically. And I think
Like, congratulations, you dodged the question. Sneaky. One more thing I want to talk about before I wrap it up. Wrap it up. So, one thing that I learned, I guess I didn't learn about it, but something this documentary really made me think about is circumcision. Yeah. If you think about it, and I never thought about this before. This is something that as a woman, I never experienced. So it's one of those things that how would I even think about it, right? I'm not a mother of a son. I am not a boy myself. So how would I know? The question becomes, is circumcision necessary? Because yeah, this poor little boy, his circumcision got completely botched. And so now he doesn't have his genitals, and it is really, really sad. And so it made me start thinking, is circumcision necessary? And at the end of the day, it is an unnecessary trauma, a physical trauma on an infant child that already just went through childbirth. And Zach was telling me, apparently there have been studies that boys who are circumcised are more likely to have depression or other mental illnesses than those who don't. I mean, it didn't make sense to me at first, because I'm a woman, so I'm just like, wait, what's the correlation here? Well, your body holds trauma no matter how old you are. So, you know, maybe you know, messing with a infant's genitals before they can consent to that, maybe that's not good. The only real like comparison I can make is I know that a lot of mothers kind of force their baby daughters to get their ears pierced before they can consent to it, and that I also think is kind of messed up. I had been fed rhetoric from people that, you know, that you want to circumcise your son because it'll keep them less likely to have infections in their adult life. But I assume that can be debunked with teaching them personal hygiene. Yeah, and it seems like there is a correlation to some mood detriments if they are circumcised. Like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I see the argument about the lower risk of HIV and STDs. The thing is, like, the problem with that is that there's also, like, there are other explanations for the lower risk of STDs in people that have. I've read this too. There's for people that are circumcised. There are lots and lots of studies that have shown that it can, and this is I guess this is kind of an adult topic, so, but like there are lots of studies that have shown that circumcision can lower the sex drive of men as well. And so if a man has a higher sex drive, then therefore he's more likely to have more partners, therefore he's at higher risk for having sexual transmitted diseases. Whereas if it's proven, like as some things have started to show correlations, that circumcision lowers the overall sex drive, a man is less likely to have partners and less likely to get infections. Now, these are just things that I've read. I don't have, none of this is conclusive, but this is what I've read in regards to the topic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know. It doesn't personally affect me, but if there's a way to keep my son as healthy as possible, if I have a son one day, then of course I want to do that. So it's important for me to make that choice before I have a child one day. And I've also, Zach, he's heard that if a woman is unconscious and isn't able to make a decision, that they will by default circumcise children. And you have to think of the origins. Like, where did it start? Right? Why did people start doing it?
Well, it was originally a religious practice, as far as I understand. That's from what maybe I'm wrong about that. From what I understand, it was a religious practice to begin with.
So, I think it's an important question to have. I don't have an answer. Okay, I'm a lady. I'm a woman. I don't know. Y'all have the machinery, I imagine. So
you see a lot of guys have a lot of opinions, right?
Yeah.
This is a hot button topic for men. It really is.
I'm just
this is.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't know. I don't know. All I do know is that if I have a son one day, I want him to be as healthy as possible. So.
I think that this is something that we need a lot more data on. A lot more. And that you can only get that data by not having paradigms in which children are just circumcised by default.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to get any real good data on this.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's another topic that was
by women.
That was brought up. So yeah, this is a great documentary. It really is. It brings up so many good points, and I would say it changed a lot of my perspectives, but it really didn't. I had a lot of these perspectives already. because I have a brother who I care about and I love very much.
Here's the they were asking for it thing.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, this is when they were trying to say that the men were asking for it. But yeah, I have a man in my family who I love very much and I care for. So obviously I care deeply about men's rights. So that's why I wanted to watch this and be more educated. But like I said, a lot of these things I already kind of agreed with already. So, you know, none of this is really a shocker to me. What does shock me is the amount of women that I'm seeing that just hate men, but that has only gotten worse over time, like I said. So I think men need advocates for them to speak up and talk about it. Men need safe spaces too, as we talked about in when we talked about the domestic violence situations. Yeah. That's equality, right? Having safe spaces for both genders. I hope y'all enjoyed this. This live stream was kind of unhinged in a lot of different ways, but you know, we appreciate it. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like this video. Leave a comment on it as well. Go watch my new video, Hogwarts Legacy or Dead by Daylight, a lesson in virtue signaling and hypocrisy. Thank you guys for being here, and I will be live again soon. Zach and I have a video idea that we will be doing very soon. We need to get that figured out for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be hilarious, you guys. Trust. We still have to do the reaction to Kathy Newman. We'll do that next live stream.
Yeah.
Next live stream, I promise we will do Jordan Peterson versus Kathy Newman, because someone did a super chat and requested that, so I will abide by that. We just ended up watching this like today because Zach's like, "What are we gonna do today? I got a day off of work," and I'm like, "Let's watch the Red Pill." So that's how we ended up here. And he's like, "You should do a live stream and talk about what you learned," and I'm like, "Okay." Oh yeah, they're talking about the MGTOW thing. Men go their own way. Yep. I'm a WGTOW femcel. I'm proud of it. The red pill has been taken over by bad actors, though. You know, everyone uses the Matrix analogy these days. And I also one day very much want to do a reaction to a what are they called? The guys that like mess with women for fun.
Pickup artist.
Yes. One of these days I'm going to do a reaction to Pickup Artists. So that one's going to be spicy. Take a look out for that. Yeah, that's next on Chopping Block. Kathy Newman and Jordan Peterson. And then a new video will come out. And then, yeah. Anyway. Yes, please, Outlaw. Thank you. Good night, Binary. Good night, Outlaw. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thank you for all the support.
Later, everybody.
Later. Be well. Stay woke.